I'm so excited. Look, thanks for being here. Like I said, I'm kind of coming down from the camp and kind of shifting gears a little bit from that. We've been in Philippians chapter 3 has kind of been our jump off start. We've been there for a few weeks talking Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 and 14. I'm going to talk a little fast because I want to get through the recap so we can get moving on so I don't run out of time. Okay, Philippians 3, 13. Paul says, "Brethren, I do not count myself as to apprehended." I mean, I don't think I'm there yet. But this one thing I'm due, I forget those things which are behind, and I'm reaching forth onto those things are before. Verse 14, I'm pressing toward the mark of the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. And I've been sharing with you, and we've been talking about pressing on into the things of God. We've been talking about moving into God, and moving on with God, finding God, changing our lives, and pressing on. We said, a decision is easy. Anybody can make a decision. We can decide, I'm going to work out every day, right? It's easy to make that decision. It's hard to do it every day. And so when we're talking about our lives and the changing of our lives, and many of us have come to a place where that's it, I'm going to make a change in my life. That's the easy part. The hard part comes when you begin to act that decision out daily and begin to do the thing you decided you were going to do. Come on. Okay, that's where it gets tough. And so we've been talking about that, and we spent a couple of weeks talking about the fact that if I'm going to press on, if I'm going to move on, one of the things that I have to have is I have to be empowered. I need God to do it. I cannot do it on my own. Some of you should amen better, but you can't do it on your own. This is not something that you can just you don't have the ability. We like to think we can sometimes, but we need God to help us do that. Last week, so we spent a couple of weeks there about empower. We began last week. One of the things that we need if we're going to press on is we need to be encouraged. We need encouragers. We need lifters. We need help. We need somebody to kind of get us back on, to motivate us. Do you know why personal trainers make so much money? Because nobody likes working out when it starts hurting. You guys are quiet. Are you guys asleep? We need to jumping jacks. The thing is, when it starts hurting, you stop. You don't want to do it. That hurts. I'm done. And you got a personal trainer. Come on, one more. You're like, no, I don't like you. I don't care if you like me or not. Do one more. And you do one more and you're done. You're like, yeah, I did more than ever. You feel like you conquered the world. You would have quit a long time ago. You and I both know that, but you had that trainer. That's why they make the money they make, because that's their job, is to push you. We need encouragers and lifters and builders. Okay, we got to have it. We talked last week about how absolutely important it is. And then whose responsibility? Remember from last week? Whose responsibility is it to find the pusher? It's yours. It's not the pusher's job to find you. Pushers don't go around looking for lazy people. It's us lazy people who go around looking for pushers. At least should be. In the church, we somehow get this idea that it's the pastor's job to come looking for me, and the truth is, it's your job to go looking for those who can lift you. All right, and this is a huge thing. I mean, this is one of those things we got to get. So we talked about the fact that it's your responsibility. You need those lifters. You need those people that will bear you up. We need to be bearing one another's burdens. We need to be lifting each other up. Now listen, as a lifter, yeah, I'm trying to help, okay? I try to help people. But the bottom line is, you and I both know if you don't want help, you're not going to get it. I'm preaching really good now. Okay? If you don't want help, you're not going to get it. And although I want to help, but if you don't want my help, it doesn't matter how bad I want to help, right? It has to come from you. All of this stuff starts with, I make a decision, and then I need change, and now I have to begin to put feet to my change. I have to begin to put action to what I'm doing, and then I need to surround myself with those who will make a difference. I need to be the one that takes responsibility to change my surroundings and those that will be lifters in my life, okay? So we talked about that. All right, we're going to move on to that. It was a great week. We need to move on. So I'm in Hebrews chapter 10. We read Hebrews chapter 10 last week, kind of talking about forsaking not the assembling of ourselves together. You know what that means, right? Go to church. You don't have to be a Christian to go to church. Remember what I told you? It's true. You don't have to go to church to be a Christian, but I've never met any successful, solid Christians who don't go to church. We need each other, okay? We need each other. The I can't say I don't need you, right? We need each other. All right, Hebrews chapter 10, verse 22. And having 22, let us draw near with a true heart in full assurance of faith, having our hearts sprinkled from evil consciousness, and our bodies washed with pure water. Let us hold fast the profession of our faith without wavering, for he is faithful that has promised. Let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together, as is the manner of some, but exhorting one another, and so much more as you see the day approaching. Let us draw near with a true heart. So as we need empowered by God, we need encouraged by other, and the next thing that we have to have, you absolutely have got to have this to be successful and to continue to press on, is hope. Without hope, you will not continue to press on. If you think there is no chance, you'll give up. Come on. And we need hope. And hope comes, as we're reading down here, from this full assurance of faith. Listen, this is a difficult one because hope is something that you have to see and that you have to have, that I can't give you my hope. I can share my story. I can tell you of the faithfulness of God. I can testify how many times God has been there for me, how many times God has rescued me, how many times God has moved in my life, how many times God has done these things for me. And I can tell these stories to you, but the bottom line is that you have to, in you, begin to recognize and begin to put some faith to the things that you're feeling. Put some faith to your thoughts and begin to say, God, I'm going to trust you. Now, that's really hard for some. Some of us have had many people in our lives, and every person that we thought we could trust has betrayed us. And so this becomes a huge, difficult issue, and it becomes a failing point for so many people who are trying to find their way to God. They want God. They need a change. They know they need a change. They know their life is a wreck. They know things are disastrous. And so they go and somebody tells them, come to Jesus and he'll fix everything. And you come to Jesus and everything doesn't get fixed. Smile at me. When you got saved, did everything go peachy keen? Peachy keen? No, the day I got saved, I got a bunch of money. Right? You didn't? Heavens open up, angels. Your life is now perfect. Not a chance in the world, man. And so what happens is, because we've never been able to trust, because we've never been able to have that level where we trusted anybody, where all of the people that we've associated with in the past, all of the situations in our past have been that of betrayal or out for themselves or whatever, and we have these trust issues. We come before God, we hear this great stuff, we know we need help. God begins to touch our heart. We begin to find some people who are encouragers and lifters, and we begin to go down this path saying, I want God, and then you are run right smack dab into a wall that you can't defeat. Man, it's good stuff, God. It's like the first thing God does to you is put you in a situation where you can't get out. That's not what I signed up for. But here's the thing, if I'm going to press on with God, if I'm going to move on with God, I have to come to a realization. The Bible says that if you come to God, you must believe that He is, and that He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek Him. He says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. And if you're going to make this, you have to have faith. Why faith? Because faith brings hope. Without hope, you will not press on. We need to be encouraged. Hope is a part of the encouragement. As long as you see there's light at the end of the tunnel, you'll move on. I'm going to do this is kind of a morbid thing here, but you just have to forgive me and love me, because that's what Jesus says you have to do. Okay? But what they did a study, and they took mice, and they put them in water, and in one of the containers they left open so that they could see light. And the other container, they made dark in the water. Pastor Dale, you're an animal killer. I didn't do it. And the mouse that was in the dark gave up almost immediately and drowned. Did they let the other one out? No, they didn't. I'm sorry. But what they found is that with the hope, the one mouse survived exponentially longer, was able to push on. That's a terrible story. I got hope and I'm still going to drown. No. You're evil. Because that mouse had hope in sunlight, and my hope is in the creator of the universe. Okay? When I put my hope in Christ, I'm not putting my hope in just something that is unreachable for me. I'm putting my hope into something that is secure and powerful and unfailing and unable to break away. Come on, you know what I'm talking about. We're not putting our hope in just some fantasy. Here's the thing. If you begin to realize that if I'm going to press on, I'm going to have to find a real power, something that will really make the difference, and then you put your hope in that, and that hope begins to spawn and grow and build in us. Okay? We have to have hope. Turn me to Romans chapter 8. Romans chapter 8. If I'm going to press on, I've got to have hope. Listen, God knows that. God is a good God. Romans chapter 8, verse 24. Romans 8, 24. For we are saved by hope. But hope that is seen is not hope. For what a man sees, why does he hope for? Let me put that in plain English. I memorized the King James. I know there are better versions and Bible versions out there, but when I memorized the King James, all growing up I had to memorize the King James, and in the school I had to memorize, went to a Christian school, I had to memorize King James. And so it's hard for me to break away from King James because I start reading the other one, I go, that's not what it's supposed to say. But it is, but it's hard for me. But what he says here is that why hope is something you have when you don't have the thing you're hoping for. Because you don't hope for something you have. Right? Why do I hope for something I've got? If I need a car and I get a car and I'm hoping for a car and I want a car and I'm looking forward to the car, my daughter's truck shopping and she's hoping for a truck. When she gets a truck, she's not going to be hoping for a truck. She'll have a truck. Okay? So when I'm talking about that you have to have hope, it's because in your life there are going to be periods and times of pressing on when you do not have the thing you need. You do not have the thing you're seeking. You haven't got the thing you're hoping for. You're still waiting for that thing to happen in you, and you don't have it yet. And as long as you don't have it yet, then what do you put in the place of the thing that you don't have? And that is hope. And that hope is based upon faith. So I understand that you may have trouble with trust. You may have trouble with this idea of faith. But listen to me. God can be trusted. You can try him out with small things if you have to at first. You can put God to the test and begin to work on him. You mean if I ask God for a hamburger, he's going to give me a hamburger? Probably not. Unless you're starving. I need a hamburger, God. And he'll bring you a chicken burger. You mean, I don't need a chicken burger. I was asking for a hamburger. What you're asking for is something to eat. Right? And so God works in mysterious ways. He doesn't necessarily, he's not like just you get everything you want from God, but he will provide. He will give you what you need. He will carry you through. Been a lot of times when I ask for God, I remember one time, I haven't always had as much money as I've got now. I'm just joking. Still don't have any money. But I remember my wife and I, and we were young, we had children, we were struggling, we didn't have a lot of money, and we weren't making much money, and we were trying to get by. And I remember an electric bill came due, and they want to shut my electric off. And I call them, I'm like, well, I've got this much money, and they said, that's not enough, you pay it all or we're shutting it off. I'm like, well, I don't have that much, this is how much I've got. And they're like, well, you pay it all or we're going to shut it off. And we went to church, and I'm not telling you to do this, I'm not telling you you have to do this, I'm just telling you That we were just in a place where, God, you're going to have to provide. We don't know what to do. We went to church, and I gave some money at church. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not saying this is just what I did. I took that little tiny bit of money, and we gave it at the church. There you go. Shut my electric off. And somebody came up to me, right, and gave me less money than I gave away. I felt like I should give this to you, and gave it to me. I had less money than I just gave. And I'm thinking, oh, that's funny, God. That's funny. I had more than that when I started. That's really funny. And it got close to that time when the bill had to be paid, and we called them up, and I told them how much I had, and they said, yeah, we'll take that. And I thought, you'll do what? Yeah, we'll take that. You can pay the rest, later. And I thought to myself, that was funny, God. God can be trusted. God can be trusted. Does it mean your electricity's never going to get shut off? I did not say that. You don't pay the bill, they're going to shut it off. All right? It's not what I said. What I said is that God can be trusted. And we have to learn how to trust him. If you cannot learn to trust God and to believe when you don't see the answer right in front of you, and if you don't learn to have hope, you are not going to be able to press on. Because it's not always there's the victory right there and I'm going to grab it. It's not every day I'm going to pray and get my answer. I've had those times where I ask God for something and boom, there it was. And then I've had those things that I've asked God for him and it's like God, crickets. Wait a minute, God, did you hear what I said? And still crickets. Okay, I've had those times in my life. What do? I'm going to press on. I'm all excited. God's going to move for me. Pastor Dale encouraged me, and I'm ready to go. And then you step out and you say, God, move, and nothing happens in your life. And my question is, then what do you do? What do you do? Yeah, you press on with hope and faith, understanding God can be trusted. And if there will be dark and empty and hard times in your life. Come on, you can amen like I'm not talking to you. Yeah. That's right. Did you hear him? Yeah. The bottom line is you're going to face those things, and you're not going to press on with God as long as you're not willing to go through a little bit of hardship. I'm willing to press on with God as long as it's all peaches and cream and, ice cream. I'll press on. As long as it's giggles and laughs, I'll press on. As long as it's joy and shouting, I'm going to press on. As long as I feel you moving, I'm going to press on. Listen, I'm telling you something. Did you know, maybe you don't always feel God? Someone's like, I'm not sure I ever feel him. If that can't be what motivates you. If a feeling motivates you, you are in trouble. Do you like feelings? Yes. But that can't be what motivates me to move on with God. It has to be faith and hope. Okay? How do I get this hope? How do I find this hope? How do I find it? It's going to require something from you. Okay? God is a God who is a rewarder of them who diligently seek him. And I'm going to tell you something. There are times in your life when you're just going to have to say to God, God, I'm going to trust you with this. Do you know why I have hope? Because I've said to God, God, I'm going to trust you. And God came through. I'm not talking about just that one electric bill. I'm talking about over and over and over and over. And I could share stories with you for the rest of this night. I could share with you over and over and over the times I trusted God and God came through. I can tell you story after story after story. And all of those stories will not do anything unless you will make a willing choice to say to God, God, I will trust you. And then he will reveal himself because you will find him to be faithful. And when God is faithful, then it will build in you and your hope will grow for the next big thing. David and Goliath. David going before Goliath. You know, I love this story, man. The guy with a slingshot. Come here, you big giant with swords and staves and shields. I'm taking you out. And you think, man, I wish I had that kind of faith. Do you? You want the kind of faith that David had? You want that? Would you like to be able to look at giants and run out there with a slingshot? Well, let's talk about that for a second. Because David was out in the field, and here comes a lion. And all he had was a slingshot. Everybody said, I want his kind of faith. All right, but if you do, you might have lions show up at your place. I want to trust God like David. Well, David's out there with the sheep, and here comes a lion. Rawr, you know. I was out hunting, and I heard all these meows. Meow, meow, meow. And I'm thinking, kittens. And I went, no, not kittens. Wait a minute. Going that way. Those are not kittens. They might be kittens, but they're the wrong kind of kittens. They got a mama with them. All right? I don't want to run into it. David ran into a lion out in the field. Let me tell you something. It wasn't like David was just out deciding, you know what, I think I'm going to take on giants, so I think I'm going to practice with my slingshot. No, he's out in the field, and a lion comes up to, and now he's faced with what does he do? And he's got this thing, and he overcomes, and he kills the lion. And now he's like, man, God, thank you. You saved me from that. Hallelujah. You taught me something. That was a very traumatic, powerful, scary time. And then you know what? Shows up a bear. He's out there in the field. He doesn't have any backup. He doesn't have any soldiers. He doesn't have any other plan. There is no backup plan. God put him in a field, in a place, and now he's facing a bear with nothing but his slingshot. And I want to trust God like that. If you're going to learn to trust God with your life in the times of darkness, guess what God is going to do? Take you through some challenges. Come on, get excited. God's going to test me. Woohoo! He's going to test you whether you like it or not. You might as well enjoy it. All right? Pastor Dale, this was much funner last week. Last week was a lot funner. It might have been funner, but this is good for you. You are going to face challenges. David faced that bear, took his slingshot. His sling wasn't actually a sling, but took his sling and took out the bear. And now he's in there with all these soldiers and all the backup of the entire army and all of these people and all of this strong and the entire army backing him up. And he did not fall to the army to do it. He didn't go to the king and say, let's go take him together. He didn't go gather up a bunch of people. He didn't go get a bunch of swords because he knew something. His God could be trusted. And because he knew his God could be trusted, he grabbed his sling. God's already shown me he can be trusted. And he grabbed his sling and he said, you might come at me with swords and with a staff, but I come at you in the name of the God of Israel. And boom, and down went Goliath. And everybody goes, wow, he's a phenomenal guy. He's a good shot. Whatever. He's a man who realized what it means to trust God. And you have to get this. If you're going to be victorious and pressing on with your walk with God, you're going to have to trust him. That means you're going to be in a place where you don't hear God. That means you're going to be in a place where it doesn't look good. That means you're going to be in a place where it seems challenging and where you're not sure there's a way out. Come on, it's good preaching. But I want you to come tell me about roses and joy and all that stuff. We'll get to that. We're going to get to joy. Maybe not today, but we are. But the bottom line is that you have to understand that if you are truly going to see a change in your life and God break through and victories in your life, you will not be able to do it without hope. And hope comes from a person who has put their trust and faith. Why would I have hope? My daughter has hope for a truck because she has some money in the bank. Well, if you got money, of course you're going to get a truck. Not necessarily, because you don't have that much. And so she has to find the right deal. Come on. She has to find the right truck. And she's out, but she has hope because she's got that money. Right? You have to understand this. This is who you are in Christ. I have hope in the middle of what seems to be a hopeless situation because I have Christ. Because I have God, because I have him who stands behind me, who says, I will never leave you and I will never forsake you. Him who says, I will always be there. You're a more than a conqueror. Through me, I will be your strength. Who says, behold, I give you all power over all the power of the enemy. And behold, greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. Because you have God as your source. Because God is my source, I have hope. Pastor Dale, you just don't know how bad my situation is. We laugh, some of us around here, because you don't know how bad our situation was. Come on, preach it, Pastor. Yeah. We know what it means to have a bad situation, but the answer is still the same, the creator, powerhouse God. That's the answer. And you're going to have to put some faith to it. And if you don't get this, listen, if you don't get this, you're going to start your walk with God, you're going to start moving on, and you'll find a situation in your life that seems bleak and hard. Okay? And you might want to call me. You might want to call somebody, and they can pray with you. And then you hang up the phone, well, they prayed with me. I still need whatever. Put your faith to it. Put your faith to it. I remember another story. I know I've shared this, but it was a time that my wife and I had started a business, and one man at the church had a business, and he ended up giving us the business, and we're out trying to run the business, and it was a parking lot cleaning company. We had a truck and a sweeping truck, and we're out sweeping parking lots, and my pastor was preaching like I'm preaching to you. God can be trusted. 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 Somebody asked him something. When are you going to preach something else? He says, when you get this one, I'll move on. God can be trusted. God can be trusted. Amen. Faith, believe him. And our truck had broke down. If a truck doesn't run when you own your own business, did you know they don't pay you? When you work for somebody else and the equipment breaks down, you keep getting paid, but when it's your truck, you don't keep getting paid. So the truck's broke down. We have no money coming in. I just spent an all-nighter. I've been out in the shop all morning, all night, and I was into the second day of trying to put our truck back together so we could go to work, so I could make a little bit of money. And my wife comes out to the garage where I've been up for hours and hours and hours, and she comes walking up and she says, hey, we just got this letter, this nice letter from the government. It says, pay your taxes or we're going to take your house. They realized I couldn't pay my taxes. They were going to help me by selling my place. Government's nice like that. And it wasn't a lot of money, all right? But I had just emptied our bank account repairing the truck. And the only thing I could hear in the back of my head was, God can be trusted. God can be trusted. And that's what I want you to get this morning. God can be trusted. And my wife brought that out what are we going to do? And she handed me that letter, and I looked at the letter, and I said, folded it back up, laid it on the truck, said, God, fix that. And I went back to work on the truck. What else am I going to do? All I can hear is pastor says you're going to work this out. So work it out, God. I have no idea how you're going to do it, but work it out. And I put it down. I kid you not, the things that happened, all of a sudden one of the accounts that I had for some strange reason paid me a month and ahead. I got 2 months check at the same time from this company. I don't even know why. Paid me 2 months. I go to my mailbox. One of the other companies that I had been working for had fallen behind 6 months in their bill. They had fallen behind 6 months. I got a letter from them, said, we realize we've been behind. We've been struggling. We're very sorry that we're behind. We're not only going to pay the 6 months we owe you, but we're going to pay 6 months in advance. So that you continue to do our lot. And I got a check for an entire year's worth of work from that company in one day. I'm thinking, God can be trusted. I knew it all along. No, I didn't. But God can be trusted. All right? Now listen, I wasn't laying down on the couch saying, God, feed my family. Come on, preach that too. That's a whole different message. I wasn't. I was doing everything I could do. But where I was at was beyond me. And I had to put my faith to my walk. I wish that there was an easy way to understand faith and hope This is very difficult for pastors. This is very difficult for the church, because if we could take our faith and hope and give it to you, we'd be extremely successful pastors. We would. Because your life would change drastically if you could learn to put your faith in Christ. You would become victorious if you could learn to put your faith in Christ. But here's what it's going to come down to you. And the very next time you face a challenge that seems to be above you, a thing that seems bigger than you, something that you don't think you can handle, or a pressure that seems to be big, what are you going to do? And listen to me. If you will say to God, if you'll put your trust in Him, listen, and you still do what you can do, all right? But if you will trust Him, you'll find hope, because He will be there for you. Okay? And you'll get victory. And every single time you get victory and you see God do a breakthrough, you're going to be like, yeah. And the next one will come up and it'll be easier than the other one. And you'll go, yeah, God can do this. And then the next one will come up and you'll go, yeah. And then those around you will begin to say about you, there is a hero of the faith who is unshaken by the stuff going around him. There is a hero of faith. And you're saying the whole time, if they could have only seen me, 6 months ago, my knees were shaking. I don't know if you're going to make this, God. Learning to trust Him. Learning hope. If we're going to press on, we need God. We need Him. We need His presence. Listen, you can't do this alone. You can't. And if I'm going to press on, it requires a relationship with Christ. Okay? It has to start there. It has to start there. And then from there, I need encouragers. I need those around me that are lifters and that are builders. And then, listen to me, you must be ready to have hope, which is faith that God will bring you through, because you're going to need it. Well, that's not very encouraging. Do you know what the Bible says 365 times, fear not? Do you know why it says that? There's a lot of stuff to be scary of. There's a lot of stuff out there to be afraid of. But God said, I'm here, so don't fear it. It might look scary, but I'm here. Don't be afraid. In your situation and all that's going, you guys should be, shout out, man, like I'm not talking to you. Yeah, woo, hallelujah, amen. Not talking to me. In this life, you're going to face trouble. I wish it wasn't that way. I wish I could tell you differently. I wish I could come up here and preach all peaches and cream and happy and joy and woo-hoo, shouting hallelujah. I wish I could preach that to you, but it'd be a lie and untrue. You are going to face challenges, but God can be trusted. Okay? And you can trust Him. And now the question that I'm giving to you, and then I'm going to close and I'm going to be done, and this is it. Will you? Because that's going to make all the difference in the world. Will you trust Him? And if you will, you'll find Him to be trustworthy. You'll find Him to be faithful. You'll find Him to be there. And hope will be easier for you in the future. Let's pray. Father, I'm so thankful for your word. Your word is so powerful. That God, that you are the God of hope. That you are the God that builds hope in us. And God, there will be joy. There will be other things. There will be shouting. There will be all of those other things. But the bottom line, that if I'm going to press on, I can't press on without faith. I have to have faith to press on. I must realize that I will not always see the victory when I think I should see the victory. It will be hard sometimes. Pressing on is the indication that this is going to be, that sometimes there's going to be work involved. And that I need hope, because hope and faith is an encourager to my soul until I see the thing that I'm hoping and believing for. I thank you and I praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.